Hey everyone, happy Veterans Day. Happy Tuesday. I'm Chrissy Clark. Welcome back to my channel. Please, if you are loving the idea of me live streaming, which brand new, starting today, who wouldn't want to take on a fun new project in the middle of their third trimester? Crazy people like me. So if you like what we're doing today, please make sure you like the stream, follow me on Instagram and TikTok, and if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. Well, guys, I hope you guys are having a great day. Today, I wanted to really encapsulate a little bit of Thanksgiving tradition a little early in the month and talk about how gratefulness is ultimately the biggest red pill of all time. Now, this all got me thinking because I guess, how do I put this? I keep hearing all the time from everybody that I know that liberalism is a mental disorder. And we see it bear out time and again in the data. But to me, when someone says something as simplistic as liberalism is a mental disorder, my mind goes, that just sounds like a really easy talking point solely designed to dismiss someone's ideas, all because all liberals are mentally ill, so we should just brush off their opinions. When in actuality, I don't think that's quite fair, nor are we doing our own brains any favors by simplistically pushing off somebody's ideas because we think that they're all mentally ill and we've just painted a broad brush for everybody. So, what I would like to begin by admitting is that the stereotype tends to be quite on the nose when discussing young liberal women. And a lot of my content nowadays has focused on womanhood and what it means to be kind of a biblical woman, but also just navigating being a girl and being a woman in an era when feminism is pushing its thumb, its fist down every woman's throat these days. So this idea to even live stream all started at church this weekend. So my pastor was talking about very, very simplistic in terms of a message you would hear at church, but the attitude of gratitude, right? Thanksgiving, of course, we're grateful. Woo! Nothing crazy special in terms of like big picture thought process there. However, what he did was he pulled up this study from UC Davis and Harvard showing that gratitude actually has 4 major impacts on your life, being that 1, it activates the joy and empathy centers of your brain. Very big key. 2, practicing gratitude releases dopamine and serotonin, which are happy hormones. If you've ever watched Legally Blonde, that's how I know that. But or if you're smart, you might also just know that too. Excuse me. The third thing that the UC Davis study found was that it reduces cortisol, which for a lot of women, cortisol it can be the reason why your face is puffy. And it can just be the reason why you're really bloated. High cortisol typically leads to a lot of bloating, but also a lot of it's the stress hormone is what it's known as. And finally, fourth, it builds new neural pathways that actually train you to see things in a very positive light instead of a very negative light. And I just got to thinking about this study, this UC Davis Harvard study, which wasn't really trying to prove the point about politics. It was just trying to prove this idea that if you view your life in a positive way, your life will actually be more positive, which doesn't seem like some mind-boggling idea. And then I started to think about it through the political lens, about how conservative versus liberalism, big picture, is a genuine thankfulness, a gratitude for the freedoms that we have versus a true hatred of an alleged system of oppression and seeing all of the bad that America has to offer as opposed to all the good that it has to offer. And that to me is when I was like, not necessarily thinking that liberalism is a mental disorder, but I started to understand the studies a little bit more. And that when you constantly see yourself as a victim, when you constantly see yourself as oppressed, when you constantly see yourself in a state of ungratefulness, yeah, your life is going to look a little bit more sad. It's going to be more emotional. You're not going to do a good job at reducing your cortisol. You're not going to do a good job of operating from glass half full as opposed to glass half empty. So I was thinking, if you're operating from no, America isn't perfect, but you are actually activating joy. You are releasing dopamine and serotonin. You are reducing your cortisol, which, ladies, that is how you get your face snatched. Not that I would know. I'm in my 3rd trimester, so I don't look the same, but still. But also, you can build new neural pathways as well. And when I put into that framework, again, I started to see that the chronic victimhood of liberalism, that is the mental disorder. It's not being a Democrat. It's not believing in more of a government welfare system. That's not what makes people mentally deranged. It is the chronic victimhood of liberalism that is the mental disorder. But I don't just want you guys to take this from me, okay? I want you to take it from a former liberal TikToker who now claims that she regulated her nervous system, and this actually made her more conservative. This video is from Madison Palika. I apologize if I got your last name wrong, Madison, but let's watch this together.
This is going to make a lot of people mad, but this is my raw opinion. I believe, as someone who is trained in nervous system regulation, that Democrats are probably way more likely to be mentally and physically unwell than a Republican is. There's probably many reasons for that, but at the very base of it, what I have been seeing since the election is a lot of crying meltdown videos, a lot of FU videos, people saying they're breaking up because of it, cutting off their friends, cutting off their family. And while those things can be beneficial, depending on the circumstances, these people are clearly overcome with emotion. And it's not just after the election that they're this way, it is before the election. Every message that they are intaking and accepting is meant to pluck the emotional strings inside of them. Me, I used to be a liberal, I used to be a Democrat, I used to hate Donald Trump, and in this last election, I voted for Donald Trump. He has his flaws, the system has its flaws, I did it anyways, and I'm relieved that he is president. But when I was liberal, I was highly emotional, and I didn't know how to have logical conversations with Republicans without being triggered and freaking out and just calling them names.
This is so key because when you regulate your nervous system, when you actually get healthy, it tends to make you a little bit more conservative because you're operating from a place of neurological peace as opposed to a place of anxiety all the time. And it's really crazy how flipping your attitude and your daily perspective from a lack of gratefulness or just not thinking about being grateful to gratefulness can actually kind of red pill you. It's nuts. But let's finish off this video.
And it's the same thing today, nothing has changed. But here's the thing. When you are emotional like that, when you're feeling negative emotions, key brain centers literally turn off. Things like social awareness, emotional reactions, decision making. Literally, those centers in your brain turn off when you're full of negative emotion. So it's no surprise, obviously, that you can't really have a constructive conversation with Democrats because the entire political agenda is based on emotions. They don't have the logic behind it, and they can't physically have the logic behind it because their smart thinking, connected brain is turned off.
She nailed it. She absolutely nailed it. And concluding that getting healthy, regulating your nervous system, operating from a place of gratitude. And I would like to say, operating from a place of gratitude, regardless of religion. Like, we can all agree that gratitude is a good thing. It's not something that's like meant for Christianity or anything like that. You are going to feel better if you do those things. And I also think that when you do those things, they will naturally make you more conservative, which is why you see these crazy articles out there like having a boyfriend will make you a Republican or something. Because yes, if you are with the right man, it's actually going to regulate your nervous system. I know, crazy. Being in a loving, healthy marriage will actually make you gracious for the life that you have. Or having kids, it makes you conservative. Yeah. Yeah, it will actually. Because I don't necessarily think that having kids will ground your nervous system. It's going to throw your life upside down. But also simultaneously, you are so grateful for the mundane, right? For the little things in life. And it's so beautiful in that aspect of it. And I think those things naturally make you more conservative. Healing yourself makes you more conservative. Now, I want to spend the rest of the show talking about 3 women, 2 of whom view themselves as professional victims. And they are really the sad end result of what liberalism and this mental disorder of liberalism has concocted through that professional victim lens, which leads me to this very viral video of Michelle Obama. Y'all, if you have not seen this, Michelle Obama went on the Jamie Kern Lima Show. Never heard of this woman in my entire life. I've heard of Michelle Obama. I've not heard of Jamie Kern Lima. But anyway, Michelle Obama goes on there. She complains about the sheer exhaustion of having a hair, makeup, and professional styling team. Poor Michelle. However does she do it? Let's watch this clip together.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really have that choice as first lady.
Of course,
right?
yeah.
Every day, every time I was up, as we called it, I was up for the public.
Yes.
And the days were long. So as you mentioned, to save time.
Yes.
I know having a glam team, a trifecta, it feels like a luxury, but it was a necessity.
Yes.
There's absolutely no way that I would be able to do my hair and makeup and have clothes ready that fit, because rare is the woman that can live off the rack.
Yes.
Oh, yes. It's so hard to live off the rack. Ugh. She's ridiculous. But I do want to keep hitting on this UC Davis Harvard study and bring everything back to gratitude, because in what world are you sad that you have a hair and makeup team? Ever. I would kill for a hair and makeup team right now. I would absolutely kill. And I actually had a hair and makeup team at one point when I worked at the Daily Wire. I had a hair and makeup team. It was amazing. I always looked so much better, and my hair was always so pretty. And there was so much time to get extra work done too. There are days where I would sit in the chair and I would just have my computer going and I was like typing and finishing up a script for something. But I also was able to create friendships with the hair and makeup team that I cherished. And it really, on the days that I had finished my work early, was able to just refill my cup and talk with these people. And it was awesome. Or also, sometimes I just needed 20 minutes to get zen, zone in on what task I was about to complete. And I was like, can I just sit in silence for 20 minutes while I relax and you do my hair? There's no way in which I was a victim in any circumstances when it came to my hair and makeup team over at Daily Wire. But I guess it depends on the lens that you look at it through. I didn't know that having a hair and makeup team or a stylist was ever something to complain about. However, this really was such a good example of what I was talking about, of how you can view the world through this chronic mental order of liberalism, or chronic mental disorder of victimhood. Or you can choose to look at it for the awesome thing that it is. Come on, like Michelle Obama. She chooses to look back at her 8 years in the White House, never buying off the rack clothes. I'm pretty sure there's like a stain on my sweater right now. You can see it because my dog licked it. Okay? Off the rack. And we're fine. She has this hair and makeup team. She has a stylist. She's got it all. She sees it as a burden. No wonder she sees herself as a victim. Her brain is it's actually something I feel pain for her. Her brain is physically unable to activate joy. She is not adequately releasing dopamine. She is seeing everything through a lens of perpetual negativity. It really is crazy. And I start to feel bad for people like this because it is, yes, a choice, but that choice has major consequences to the way that you see and perceive the world. And it breaks my actual heart. Now, part of me also thinks that this kind of negativity is done under the guise of being real or relatable. Michelle Obama, if I could just give you any piece of advice, madam, you should really avoid this because your champagne lifestyle, it's not real, it's not relatable, it doesn't work. But while we're on that topic, let's talk about how being real and relatable on the internet can actually contribute to this victimhood cycle. And it is perhaps why we are seeing so many young liberal women who are chronically online. I believe, and feel free to disagree in the comments or drop your thoughts below. I'll get to some comments at the end of the show. I think being real has quickly become a cover-up for complaining about the dumbest first world problems. Now listen, I've done this myself. Really, I've done it before. I'm not saying I'm perfect, that I'm never going to do it again, that I'm never going to use my platform to talk about something real or relatable or complain about a dumb first world problem, right? However, I do believe from the bottom of my heart, where my heart actually lies on this issue, is that joyfulness can very quickly be stifled when we focus on what we don't have versus what we do have. And it's real as women online to complain that, I don't know, what do I see a lot on TikTok? Oh, we're broke, we're all single, or we all go on bad dates. But at what point is that realness just contributing to a cycle of telling you what you don't have? You don't have enough money, or you don't have a husband, or you didn't have a good night. You could think like that, and then you could consume content from people who are relatable and relate to you in that aspect. But then you're always thinking about how you're never going to have enough money. You're never going to take enough vacations. You're never going to meet the man of your dreams. You're never going to have a fun night out. Or you can start to choose to view things through the lens of, okay, I have a roof over my head and I have great friends and I have great family. I have food in my stomach and I will just continue to work hard to make more money. Or, I may be single, but God is preparing me for a reason. I should pay attention to what he's doing in my life right now so that I can prepare myself for my next steps when I do have a husband. And I think the reason why so many people don't do this nowadays is because that kind of positivity online is viewed as fake. And I know that because I used to think that, right? I'm not saying that it doesn't come across that way to some people. I just now see what other perceives as fakeness as actual strength. Because instead of complaining about all the little things, all the real things, all the relatable things, these fake quote unquote people choose to see things through a positive lens, especially when they're going online and deciding what they are going to promote. Perhaps the majority of real conversations belong in real life, where you can get support from an actual community, not online where you can obsess and identify with each other's victimhood. Perhaps it's just not good, and specifically not good for young women who, yes, are experiencing these issues, but should experience them alongside other women in their community, as opposed to going down the rabbit hole of swiping on TikTok and seeing that kind of negativity fed into them every single day and thinking, yeah, it's a good thing. I can talk about how broke I am. I can talk about how my dating life sucks. That's not going to have any effect on me. I'm just being relatable. I'm just being real. I think that there's some really major consequences to that. But that's just my 2 cents. I'll let you guys decide for yourself in the comments, because I know a lot of you guys consume that real and relatable content, and I'm not saying it's evil. I'm just saying perhaps we should reframe our mind on some of this stuff. All right, well, let's get to another woman who sees herself as a perpetual victim. Jimmy Kimmel's frickin' wife. Oh, I'm getting a punch or a kick from baby girl right now. Right into my ribs. Whew. Sorry, guys. We will be having interruptions whenever she feels like kicking or punching. It's hard to breathe. I'm good, but it's hard to breathe. Back to Jimmy Kimmel's wife. So she went on a podcast this week. I'm going to pull up an article that we can kind of go through, but she went on this podcast with her husband, and she spent the entire time admitting to everyone that she's angry all the time, and she's now cut off all ties with her Trump supporting family. Let me pull this article up for you guys. Let me see here. Should screen shared this. Let's allow this window, share this window. Sorry guys, we're in real time. You know how it is. Let's see. I'm not seeing it pop up, are we?
Yeah.
Oh, we got Michelle Obama. Hey, there we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. All right, so this article about Jimmy Kimmel's wife cutting off ties with his Trump voting family. I'm angry all the time. So Molly McNeary, that's her name. Why? We're not going to show my screen. That's quite rude, actually. Give me one more try, guys. There we go. Let's try this. There we go. Hopefully this stays. Okay. Like I was saying, Molly McNeary, she's the head writer. She is the producer, executive producer of Jimmy Kimmel Live, went on the We Can Do Hard Things podcast and said she felt deeply betrayed by relatives who backed President Trump, saying their vote was effectively a vote against her husband. Because everything's about Molly and Jimmy. She said, quote, I've sent many emails to my family, like right before the election, saying, I'm begging you. Here's the 10 reasons not to vote for this guy. Please don't. And I either got ignored by 90% of them or got truly insane responses from a few. Perhaps because it's truly insane to send these kind of things. Woo! Sorry, she is kicking my rib so hard, it's almost making me a little nauseous. Molly went on to say, it hurts me so much because of the personal relationships I now have, where my husband is out there fighting this man. I thought he was a comedian. Why the hell is he making his entire personality fighting Donald Trump? And to me, them voting for Trump is them not voting for my husband and me and our family. And I unfortunately have kind of lost relationships with people in my family because of it. She went on to say she's angry all the time because she's got an unregulated nervous system. She's mad at aunts, uncles, and cousins for helping elect Trump, yet claims she feels sympathy for them, calling them deliberately misinformed. Let me just preach for 1 second. This perpetual victimhood derived from liberalism always, without a doubt, makes people perceive that decisions made by other people are about them when they're not. It's just true. The votes of Jimmy Kimmel's in-laws were not made to spite Jimmy Kimmel. They were made for personal reasons and personal convictions. Not everything is about Jimmy Kimmel. When I go to the voting booth, I'm not thinking about my aunt or my uncle that doesn't like Donald Trump. No one's thinking that. It's not to spite you. But when people, these deranged liberal women, see everyone is out to get them, when they are constantly the victim and everything is me centric, it is genuinely, it's not just my opinion, it is nearly impossible to create the positive neurological pathways that allow you to conclude that other people just have different opinions. Which is true. Some people just have different freaking opinions. And that's how I started this entire show, was saying there are some liberals that just have different opinions. I'm cool with that. Conservatives, we can be cool with that idea. However, the perpetual victimhood constantly associated with liberalism that also exists on the right, but more so exists on the left, it will constantly mess up your mind to make you think that everyone is against you when that is not reality. It's just not reality. But I digress. All right, I have one final story that I want to touch on, and then I will kind of go to the comments on what is it? I'll go to the comments on TikTok and on YouTube. So Instagram, I don't really see the comments. So final story I want to touch on, which let's hope my screen pulls up for this, is another topic of joyfulness, obviously, but it's kind of Nashville based. And as a lot of you guys know, I live in Nashville. So if you've not heard the story, country music star Kelsea Ballerini, she had this new song that came out opening up about how all she wants to do is be a mom. The song is called I Sit in Parks, and it's generated a ton of media coverage. I'm going to try and pull up the lyrics for us, so let's see. I hope this shares again. Heck yeah, we got it, guys. Okay. So Kelsea Ballerini opens up about wanting to be a mom in new song. Let's read the lyrics. This is from today. So the song, like I said, titled I Sit in Parks, talks about how she was just kind of sitting on a park swing looking out at a dad who brought the picnic. Mom brought the sunscreen. Mom and dad are in love. There are 2 kids. They're laughing. They're crying on red swings. In the music video, Kelsea Ballerini, who is 32, contemplates this dream of having a husband, of having kids, as, you know, she's perpetually thinking about becoming a mom. She says, did I miss it? By now, is it a lucid dream? Is it my fault for chasing things a body clock doesn't wait for? She sings about being on tour, what she wants. I did the damn tour. It's what I wanted. It's what I got. I spun around and then I stopped and wondered if I'd missed the mark. That part broke my heart. Like, actually, I don't know why I'm smiling because that's messed up. It's literally so sad. Now, if you don't know the backstory on Kelsea Ballerini, not that it super matters, but I just like to give context for things. Kelsea actually got married really young. She was married to another country music star named Morgan Evans, and she was taking off in the music industry at the same time that most women, I would say she was probably 26, 27. She was taking off in the music industry at that age, which is really kind of the age that most women in their 2020s, when she was that age, started to have families. And she ended up getting divorced from her husband. I don't know whether they were good or whether they were not good. I don't know why. She went on Alex Cooper's Call Her Daddy and did a whole rundown of their breakup, which I think is tacky, but whatever. And she really just, the gist of her interview was she opted for a career in music over a family. He seemed to want a family, whatever. Now, I also want to caveat though, like, just because she got divorced doesn't mean she was picking between family and music at the time. Like, Morgan Evans, her ex-husband, like, might have just not been the right person for her. But I digress. Now, she's 32. She's wondering whether she's prioritized the wrong things in life. It absolutely breaks my heart. I also don't think 32 is too old. Go ahead, Kelsey, you got time. She can still prioritize having a family and getting married and all the wonderful milestones that make us all feel equal as humans. But where I wanted to reroute this conversation back to joyfulness is I just wanted to take a moment and remind women out there, because I was talking about this with my husband on our walk last night, that I think there's moments right now as I'm going through this journey of pregnancy where I'm grieving a tiny bit about the things that I might have wanted to do in my career. There's obviously plenty of time. I'm like 28 years old. I have a whole life to do a lot of cool things. But listening to this song at this point in my life, at least, I was just so connected to the topic of gratefulness, which is why I wanted to talk about it today. Because let me just remind you that if you have a husband who loves you, if you have children who laugh and who cry, there are country music stars who live in beautiful mansions, who make millions of dollars, who see the world, who sit first class. Kelsea Ballerini does everything that consumerism tells us you and I should strive for. She does everything that feminism tells us will make us feel whole. But at the end of the day, she goes to the park down the street from me and she is jealous of you. She's jealous of girls who have a simple life. And when life is hard, because life is inevitably hard, y'all, remember that there is a beautiful country star wishing that her life looked more like yours. And that to me made me feel real good. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, dang, I have all the things I could possibly want in this world. And how joyful. And then obviously I had incredible results, and I just went to bed so happy last night thinking about that. And so I just wanted to reroute the conversation and conclude on something very happy. Anyway, let me take a look at some of the comments, see if you guys wanted to talk about anything else before I wrap up the show. Let's see. It's kind of hard to tell on the platform that I'm using. I've missed all of you guys deeply. I know that you're like, yay, I haven't seen you guys in so long. Well, it's really hard to see what comments work, so maybe we won't be doing comments at the end of the show. Anyway, maybe next time. Maybe I'll figure it out for the next stream. Anyway, if you guys love underreported stories, which is kind of what got me going on social media, there are 5 stories that if you turned into CNN, MSNBC, or Fox, you would not hear. Those will be out today at 6 p.m. Eastern. You can also catch me on Newsmax a lot this week. I will be on Newsmax tomorrow, Wednesday, November 12th at 6:25 p.m. Eastern. I'll be on Carl Higbee's show. And then my goal is to be back for another live stream at 3 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. So again, underreported stories will come out on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. It will be available at 6 p.m. Eastern. Newsmax tomorrow at 6:30, 6:25-ish. And then we'll have another live show on Thursday. So yeah, I had a blast doing this. Again, if you liked this and you had a good time, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, all the things. And I will hopefully see you guys back here on Thursday.